Hey there, welcome back to the Corporate Detox podcast. I'm your host, Amanda McWhorter. And this kicks off the second episode of season 3. And this episode is going to be a mini episode. So these are something that I started in season 2 and I've really come to love. So these episodes will be shorter and they will typically roll out during the week, where our longer episodes that are typically with guests roll out on Sundays. So let's jump in to this episode. So I'm recording this in January of 2024, and I can tell you it's towards the end of the month. It's January 22nd, and as we went into the new year, I did not feel the energy of new year, new you, right? There wasn't like this energy of going and getting stuff done. Quite honest, I felt a little stagnant the first part of the month. And what I've really come to embrace in this season is a concept called wintering. And when you think about wintering, really, it is what happens in nature, right? So think about what happens to trees during the year, right? So in the spring, they get blooms, they grow their leaves, and that's when things really start to bud and come back to life. During the summer, the sunshine is hitting those leaves, right? It's kind of like absorbing all the energy. And then when we move into fall, that's when the leaves start to fall, right? So we start kind of going into hibernation mode. And that's really what the wintering process is. And as humans, right, we go through processes like this, just like a tree would. And for some of you, you might think that it's a little too much, or maybe that's not kind of your understanding of wintering. But I can tell you that it has been really nice in this season to sit back and not be in a big rush, right? Not go out there and be going and going and going and going all the time. And really, that's what I have needed so far this month. So, with this episode, I want to dig into the concept of wintering professionally. So, stay with me for a minute. You know how it is, especially if you're a high achiever, right? You're constantly going and going and going, and you're probably giving your career like 110% all the time. But at some point, you just get exhausted and depleted. And you have to like kind of pull back the energy, right, that you're putting into your career and put those into other areas of your life. I like to call this work-life harmony because I don't think that work-life balance is something that's achievable. And I think that it really just puts more pressure on a system that's not set up for actual balance. So in order to achieve that harmony, if you've been going and going and going, you almost have to go into like this hibernation mode professionally to be able to put a lot of focus in other areas of your life. So if this is happening to you or has in the past, it's not something to be ashamed of, right? I work with clients that are in burnout, and my own journey is rooted in some very deep burnout that I didn't even know existed because I was so accustomed to that going, 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 going all the time. Looking back on my corporate career, I can tell you there were definitely times where there was like this wintering process, and it doesn't always take place in the actual winter, right? It can take place any time of year. When you've got to kind of pull back and not be giving 110%, maybe you're only giving 60% just to get by. And then at that point, you're being able to focus on maybe your health, your family, something else that you have going on in other areas of your life. So, wintering when it comes to like your professional life can happen at any time, right? Where we have to pull back, we have to rest up. And maybe we're doing this before we have something big that's going to happen and that you need to give all this energy to. So, if you're in the season that you feel like you've got to pull back a little bit from what you're giving to your career, to your business, and really focus on other areas of your life, full permission to do that. That doesn't make you a bad leader, doesn't make you a bad employee. It doesn't make you a bad entrepreneur. It really doesn't, right? That's actually going to set the tone for people that look to you. They look to you for advice. They really look to you for mentorship as well. So not only do we go through the season of winter, but we can experience it personally and professionally. So, what are some times that you might experience that wintering process professionally? So I talked about one already. As we're going into something big, you might have to pull back a little bit because you're kind of like keeping all that energy for when you need it, right? Other times could be if there is something major going on in your life. Maybe you notice that you've been giving so much at work that you've neglected yourself, your family, your friends, maybe other commitments that you have. And you have to be able to recognize that our careers should not be so consuming that we are staying in that, I'll say, summer energy, right? Staying in this go, 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 like getting all this energy, putting a lot out all the time. We need to be able to rest. We need to be able to pull back a little bit. Those are the moments that we find a lot of insight. We find a lot of wisdom, a lot of clarity. And quite honestly, it's when we can find ourselves as well. So if you're listening to this and you know that you are someone that their identity has become wrapped up in their career, I challenge you to pull back a little bit. How do you go into a little bit of a hibernation mode at work to be able to flourish in other areas of your life? I hope that this episode has served you, and I really hope that this season is going to bring you hope. And if you're a new listener, feel free to go back. There are so many stories in past episodes of people, their journeys from the corporate world, in the corporate world, outside of the corporate world, that really can give you so much hope.